The Temazcal was a very important and symbolic element in pre-Hispanic times. It is one of the few traditions that has survived almost intact to this day. Although today, in Mexico, it is not widely practiced. Even though we are currently over 132 million people, very few have ever participated in a Temazcal. This Nahuatl word is composed of two parts: tema, meaning steam, and cal, a contradiction of cali, or house. Thus, Temazcal, or Temazcali, means house of steam, or steam bath houses. However, it is known by other names among different groups, such as Umpulche or Tuk in Quiche, Pus in Tzeltal, Urigeca among Purepeches, and Sac for the Totonacs, among others. In simple terms, the Temazcal is an activity where people enter an enclosed space that is heated to produce steam through water, causing participants to sweat. Although it never disappeared entirely, the Temazcal has seen a revival, especially over the last 60 years. Now let's discuss its origins. Its pre-Hispanic existence is well documented, with remains found in many archaeological sites. They were represented in codices and chronicles, both during colonial times and after independence. It has been recorded that the Temazcal served hygienic purposes, treatments before and after childbirth, and well as religious and therapeutic functions. Its ritual role and cosmological significance were profound, starting with the duality of cold and heat, symbolizing masculinity and femininity. The Temazcal represented the Earth's interior. One of its most common forms, Sundom, symbolizes the maternal womb. In this case, the womb of the Earth. It was seen as a place of transition between the world of the living and the underworld. The Temazcal was also associated with the ball game. As in some eras, ball courts and Temazcals were found together. For instance, in Teotenango, in the state of Mexico, where remains of a Temazcal are located next to ball court. They were also found in common neighborhoods, like one in Mexico City, near to the market called La Merced. In the past, there were specialists who managed them, known today as Temazcaleros or Fire Eagles. And just like now, their service came with a fee. There were the roles of hunchbacks, dwarfs, and specialized blowers for the steam bath. These individuals were respected in their neighborhoods and were considered highly honorable. Their services were compensated by families with abundant food, pulque, and corn, all in accordance with the client's status. There was a deity that governed the Temazcal, at least among Nahua groups, called Toki, Tokitzin, or Teteo Inan, the Lady of the Steam Baths. She is described in the Florentine Codex. This goddess was a deity of medicine and medical herbs. Physicians, surgeons, and bloodletters worshipped her, as well as midwives. Also those who cast lots with corn kernels, and those who divined by looking into water honored her. Those who had steam baths or Temazcal in their homes also venerate her, and they placed her image in the baths, calling her Temazcaltesi, which means the grandmother of the baths. The primary recorded use of the Temazcal over centuries was medicinal, but it was also used for many other purposes and celebrations, such as pre-Hispanic weddings, celebrating an elder's 52nd year, before the dance of the flyers, commemorating agricultural cycles, and in general, to strengthen social bonds throughout shared experiences. However, the arrival of the Spanish initially discredited the Temazcal. They claimed that groups of people entering these spaces, naked or semi-naked, engaged in sexual acts akin to Roman orgies. Although they initially deemed these activities sinful, their perception began to change. The number of Temazcals decreased, but the Spanish gradually recognized their medicinal benefits. The Spanish even began building Temazcals in hospitals established by friars. For example, the hospital in Tonatiuh, Michoacán, had a Temazcal described by Friar Matias de Escobar in 1543. Natives come to us for remedies for their ailments and find homemade medicines in our convents. Their baths are unique, for these Temazcals were built in the hospitals, which they call small ovens. When used properly, they produce remarkable health effects. Temazcals survived colonial times and were eventually legally regulated during that era. Unlike today, for example, regulations from 1793 governed baths, Temazcals, and laundries. By 1691, there were 12 registered Temazcals in Mexico City, a number that grew to 24 by 1793. Permissions were required to build a Temazcal, guaranteed by the Police Board and the Viceroy of New Spain. Regulations stipulated that man and woman could not bath together. Signs had to indicate the type of Temazcal, and waste had to be disposed of properly, among other rules. In rural areas, Temazcal continued to be family-oriented. Over time, they also appeared in haciendas for the workers. Thus, the Temazcal reached modern times, where it has persisted in certain communities. For instance, in Jalatlalco in the state of Mexico, large family Temazcals accommodate over 200 people. In contrast, in Mexico City, Temazcal became less common, and it became easier to find a pulqueria than a Temazcal. As mentioned in recent decades, the Temazcal had experienced a resurgence, accompanied by the modern pros and cons. While most Temazcals have a similar structure, the rules vary depending on their owners. They are skilled practitioners as well as fanatics and fraudsters. Some modern beliefs differ from archaeological evidence. For instance, while many think only dome-shaped Temazcals exist, rectangular and square ones have been found in places like Tlatelolco, Xochicalco, and Teotenango. Another misconception is the exclusive use of heated stones, called grandmothers, placed in a central pit. Evidence shows that ceramic pits or wall heating with attached ovens were also used. Today, Temazcals might use gas for heating, and some follow ceremonies like the Four Doors ritual, where 52 stones are introduced in 4 stages. However, not all Temazcals adhere to these sequences, especially those for tourists. Negative aspects also arise, such as Temazcal operators working under the influence of drugs or alcohol, and participants with medicinal conditions not being screened beforehand. Some Temazcals, derisively called Temaz spas, cater primarily to tourists, offering weaker heat. In the past 500 years, changes are understandable. Today, temazcals are made of various materials and varying styles, ritual, cost, and origins. In conclusion, the temazcals is what the practitioner and participants make of it. It can be scared, medicinal, or entertaining. However, in pre-Hispanic times, it was definitely significant, reflecting their worldview. So tell me, have you ever experienced a temazcal? And did you enjoy this millennia-old tradition?